Have you ever had a day so perfect that you wished it could last forever? Everything was just right, work flowed smoothly, your coffee was perfect, the weather was beautiful, and then boom, you get bad news on your phone, your car breaks down, or it suddenly starts raining just when you forgot your umbrella. One moment, you're happy, the next, everything feels chaotic. What just happened? The truth is, nothing stays the same. Everything changes: your mood, your job, your relationships, even your own body. One moment, you're full of energy. The next, you feel completely drained. But why? Why can't things just stay the way they are? If you've ever asked yourself this question, congratulations, you've just stumbled upon one of life's greatest truths: impermanence. Sounds a little too philosophical, right? But hold on, don't leave just yet. This story might make you rethink everything. Do you know how the Buddha realized the truth of impermanence? It wasn't from books, it was from an event that changed his life forever. Let's find out.
Prince Siddhartha had it all: luxury, comfort, and not a single wrinkle of worry. His palace was basically the ancient version of an all-inclusive resort, where the only suffering he knew was deciding between silk or gold-threaded robes. Life was predictable, controlled, and free of anything remotely unpleasant. At least, that's what he thought, until one day, curiosity got the best of him. He stepped outside his palace bubble, and reality hit him harder than a surprise bill after a free trial. First, he saw an old man, wrinkled, hunched over, moving like he had just lost a fight with time itself. Wait, what's this? Does everyone get old, even me? That was shock number one. Before he could process that horror, he saw a man suffering from illness, his body weak, his pain visible. So, youth isn't a guarantee either. Health can disappear just like that. Anxiety level rising. Then, as if fate wanted to really hammer the lesson in, he encountered a funeral procession, a lifeless body being carried away. No second chances, no palace comforts to undo it. Oh, so this is where it all leads. His mind was spinning. He had spent his whole life shielded from these realities, but now they were hitting him all at once like a plot twist he never saw coming. But then, just as panic was setting in, he saw something different. A monk. Unlike the old man, the sick man, or the lifeless body, this guy looked peaceful. Actually at peace. No fear, no panic, no existential crisis. Just a quiet, calm acceptance of life. How? Siddhartha had just discovered that life was basically a non-stop rollercoaster of change, loss, and uncertainty. And yet, here was someone who seemed to have figured out how to be okay with it. That was it. The moment everything changed, Siddhartha couldn't unsee what he had seen. The palaces, the luxuries, the illusion of control, it all felt hollow now. He realized that no amount of gold could protect him from aging, sickness, or death. And if that was true, then what was the point of all the wealth and comfort if it couldn't offer real peace? So, he did what no prince in his right mind would do. He walked away from it all. Left behind the silk robes, the gourmet feasts, the royal life, not because he didn't appreciate them, but because he knew they weren't the answer. He set out on a journey, not to escape impermanence, but to understand it, to find out if there was a way to live fully without being crushed by the weight of change. And little did he know, that decision would lead him to one of the greatest discoveries of all time. What is impermanence? Let's be honest, impermanence is that annoying reality we all know exists but pretend we can ignore. It's like that one friend who always reminds you that summer vacations don't last forever. Your favorite coffee shop might close down. And, oh yeah, even your best days will eventually pass. Not exactly comforting, right? But here's the twist: impermanence isn't just about loss and endings. It's also about change, renewal, and the very thing that keeps life moving forward. So, what exactly is impermanence? Simply put, it's the undeniable truth that nothing stays the same. Your emotions, your body, your relationships, your job, the weather, everything is in a constant state of motion. One moment, you feel on top of the world. The next, you're wondering why everything feels so out of control. One day, you look in the mirror and think, not bad. A few years later, you're analyzing wrinkles like they personally betrayed you. That's impermanence in action. Now, logically, we all get it, change is inevitable. But accepting it, that's where things get complicated. Why? Because we like stability. We crave predictability. We want to believe that the things and people we love will always be there, unchanged. And when reality doesn't match that expectation, we panic. Take relationships. For example, you meet someone amazing, and in the early days, everything is perfect. You laugh at the same jokes, text each other all day, and swear it'll always be this good. But then something shifts. Maybe life gets in the way. Maybe you grow in different directions. And suddenly, the connection isn't what it used to be. It's confusing. It's painful. And the first instinct is to ask, what went wrong? But what if nothing actually went wrong? What if things simply changed because that's what everything does? Or let's talk about success and failure. Have you ever noticed how when you're winning, it feels like you'll always be winning? You land a great job. You hit your fitness goals. People admire you, it feels like you've cracked the code to life. But then, unexpectedly, things shift. Maybe you lose motivation. Maybe an opportunity slips away. Or maybe circumstances outside your control flip everything upside down. Suddenly, you're struggling, and it feels permanent. Except it's not. Because just like good times don't last forever, neither do bad ones. Impermanence works both ways. And that's the tricky part: we only really notice impermanence when it hurts us. When something good disappears, we mourn it. But when something bad fades away, we call it healing or moving on, without realizing it's the same law at play. Think about every heartbreak, every setback, every failure you thought you'd never recover from until one day you did. That's impermanence. Of course, knowing this doesn't mean dealing with change is easy. In fact, one of the biggest struggles with impermanence is the emotional resistance we put up against it. We fight it, bargain with it, try to outsmart it, anything to avoid accepting that we're not in control. But the irony, the more we resist change, the more we suffer. Imagine clinging to a rope that's slowly slipping through your hands. The tighter you grip, the more painful it becomes. But if you loosen your hold, let the rope move naturally, the pain lessens. That's how impermanence works. It's only painful when we try to stop it. Now, before this turns into a full existential crisis, let's talk about the good side of impermanence. Because believe it or not, it's not all bad news. In fact, impermanence is the very thing that makes life exciting. Think about it: if nothing ever changed, growth wouldn't be possible. You wouldn't evolve. You'd be stuck in the same patterns, same emotions, same situations forever. Every time you've improved at something, gained wisdom, or become stronger after hardship, it's all thanks to impermanence. And here's the biggest takeaway: impermanence doesn't just take things away, it gives us everything we experience. The beautiful moments, the unexpected joys, the second chances, the new beginnings, they all exist because nothing stays the same. So, the real question isn't, how do I stop things from changing? Because, well, you can't. The real question is, how do I make peace with impermanence? And that's where things start to get interesting. Let's keep exploring. One day, a Zen master was sitting with his favorite antique teacup. The kind that looks like it belongs in a museum, delicate, beautiful, probably worth a small fortune. It wasn't just any cup. It was his cup. The one he used every day. The one he admired every time he poured tea into it. Then, the inevitable happened. One of his students, in a moment of pure clumsiness, we've all been there, accidentally knocked it off the table. The cup hit the ground, and in one horrifying second shatter, it was gone. Pieces everywhere. The students froze, bracing for impact. Maybe their master would sigh in disappointment. Maybe he'd shake his head in sadness. Or maybe, just maybe, he'd unleash some enlightened wisdom about being mindful while handling valuable objects. But instead, the master just smiled and said, "I saw this cup as broken the day I received it." Cue the confusion. The students glanced at each other, whispering things like, "Wait, what? Did he just predict the future? Surely, he hadn't actually thought this cup was already broken when it was sitting perfectly intact on his table. So what did he mean?" See, the master wasn't some psychic teacup prophet. He was just deeply in tune with one of life's most uncomfortable truths: everything is already in the process of change. Even when it looks perfectly fine. The cup didn't suddenly break. It was always going to break. Maybe today, maybe next year, but at some point, it would return to pieces. And because he had already accepted that reality, he wasn't devastated when it finally happened. Now, let's be honest, most of us don't think this way. We treat things like they'll last forever. We assume our relationships, our health, our youth, our success, our stuff will just stick around indefinitely. And when change inevitably happens, we react with shock, grief, or even anger, as if life betrayed us. But did it? Or were we just refusing to see the truth that was always there? Imagine if we applied the Zen master's perspective to everyday life. Take relationships. Most people go into them thinking, this will last forever. And when things change, because of course they do, it feels like the world is ending. But what if, from the very beginning, you acknowledged that everything in life is temporary? not in a depressing, nothing matters way, but in a way that makes you appreciate things while you have them. You wouldn't waste time on petty arguments. You'd cherish the moments more. You'd be less devastated when change inevitably arrived because you'd already made peace with the fact that nothing stays the same. Or think about success. People climb to the top of their game and assume they'll stay there forever. But life doesn't work like that. Maybe today, you're thriving, your career is great. Money is flowing. People admire you. But what happens when things shift? Because they will. And if you've built your entire identity around something impermanent, then losing it will feel like losing yourself. That's why the Zen master's wisdom is so powerful. It's not about not caring he loved that cup, but he understood that love and attachment are not the same thing. Love appreciates what is while it lasts. Attachment suffers when things change. The problem isn't impermanence, it's our refusal to accept it. So, what's the takeaway? It's this: everything you have is already broken, already gone, already changing, not in a hopeless way, but in a way that should make you appreciate it more. That friend you talk to every day. One day, life will pull you in different directions. That success you're enjoying. One day, the tides will shift. The people, the places, the experiences, none of them are guaranteed to stay the same. And maybe, just maybe, if we start seeing things this way, we'll stop clinging so hard. Stop fearing change so much, and actually start living fully. Because when you accept that everything is temporary, you finally learn how to truly enjoy it while it lasts. If everything changes, why do we spend so much time fearing it instead of using it to our advantage? Impermanence isn't just about loss, it's also about growth, renewal, and opportunity. It means that no matter how bad things feel right now, they won't stay that way forever. And if that's true, then why not shift our perspective? Think about it. If you're suffering, remember this feeling is temporary. No emotion lasts forever. What feels unbearable today may become a distant memory sooner than you think. Even the worst heartbreak, the deepest failure, or the darkest moment will eventually pass. Just like everything else, the mind likes to trick us into believing that pain is permanent. But nothing in this world has ever stayed the same, not even our suffering. If you've failed, don't panic. Failure, just like success, is never permanent. The person who's struggling now could be thriving in the future. How many times in history have people fallen, only to rise stronger? The person who loses everything today might be the one who builds something incredible tomorrow. Every setback is just a moment in time, not the end of the story. The beauty of impermanence is that no situation, good or bad, can stay unchanged. And if you're lucky enough to have people you love around you, don't take them for granted. Because one day, whether we like it or not, things will change. Instead of fearing that reality, why not use it as a reason to appreciate them now? Tell the people you love how much they mean to you. Spend time with them while you can. Because one day, you won't have that chance. But that's not a reason to despair, it's a reason to live fully. Impermanence is what makes every moment precious. We often see impermanence as a cruel force, something that takes away what we love. But the truth is, it's the reason we can grow, heal, and reinvent ourselves. It's the reason we get second chances. It's the force that ensures nothing, not even our worst days, lasts forever. So instead of fighting it, what if we embraced it? This reminds me of a powerful story. There was once a grieving mother who lost her only child. Heartbroken, she couldn't accept her loss. In desperation, she went to the Buddha, begging him to bring her son back to life. She pleaded for a miracle, something to take her pain away. The Buddha didn't refuse her, but instead, he gave her a simple task. Go and find a mustard seed from any household that has never experienced loss. Hopeful, the mother set out, knocking on doors, asking for a single mustard seed. But with each house she visited, she heard the same story. Every family had lost someone, a parent, a sibling, a child, a friend. Every home carried its own grief. By the time she returned to the Buddha, she no longer asked for her son to be brought back. Instead, she had learned a deeper truth: suffering is universal, and impermanence touches everyone. Her pain didn't disappear overnight, but her perspective changed. She no longer saw her loss as something unfair or isolated to her own experience. She realized that just as birth is a part of life, so is loss. Just as the seasons change, so do the people and things we hold dear. And in that realization, she found peace. The lesson here isn't about accepting suffering passively, it's about understanding that we are not alone in it. Just as joy is fleeting, so is grief. Holding on too tightly only makes the inevitable changes in life more painful. The tighter we grip, the harder it is to let go when the time comes. But what if we flipped the script? What if, instead of fearing impermanence, we used it as a reminder to love more fiercely, live more fully, and let go more gracefully? Impermanence is not the enemy. It is the very thing that makes life meaningful. If everything was permanent, nothing would be precious. If we never lost anything, we'd never truly value what we have. So instead of resisting impermanence, maybe the real power lies in using it, in allowing it to teach us gratitude, in letting it inspire us to be present, in accepting that change is what makes life beautiful. Because if everything changes, then every day is a chance to begin again. So, impermanence is not something to fear, it is a truth that helps us live better. When you understand that everything will change, you learn to cherish the present, let go of past pain, and worry less about the future. Think about this. If you only had one day left to live, what would you do? Live as if today is the most important day, because in reality, it is. Thank you for watching. If you found this video meaningful, share it with someone you love.